Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Artificial Future podcast, the one that we do every Wednesday. No co-host, just me. And the picture behind me is of a robot that is actually carving meat. Can you see that there? And we were actually surprised. One of the topics this morning is going to be AI being used in meat carving, having robots do a 3D version of meat carving far more accurately than humans. And usually when we ask AI to render images like this, anything having to do with knives and butchering, and it declines because it's been trained not to allow those kinds of things to go through. But this one did not disappoint. As you can see, we have a humanoid robot with blue eyes that freaked out one of our editors, holding a sharp object and carving something that doesn't quite look like beef, but the prompt was, show us a robot carving a beef carcass, and this is what it came up with. So where this is going, or where this is taking place, is actually in Queensland, Australia. It's a company called Kilcoy Pastoral Company. It's a processing plant there. And what they're doing is installing a one-of-a-kind intelligent robotic system using AI and photonio motion 3D cameras to let robots fully automate the process of beef carcass scribing, as they call it. This is usually a skilled manual task that requires the use of hazardous circular cutting saws, and this operation often involves the risk of operator injuries or inaccurate cutting of the high-valued beef carcass. If you've been to the grocery store lately, you've probably seen how meat prices are climbing. So getting it right the first time is very important. So before cutting begins, even, each side of the beef carcass passes before a series of these photonio motion cam 3D image cameras. They are now selected to capture highly accurate 3D point cloud images, even during the movement of the beef carcass on the conveyor, varying sizes and varying shapes. And then vision, processing, and AI identify the key features of interest on the carcass, which defines where the robot needs to make the incisions. The first robot performs the 2 spine cuts before the camera measures again before the second cuts are made to maintain millimeter accuracy. That's pretty tight. The IR scribe robotic scribing process then figures out where the additional cuts need to be made, which is critical for the boning room success. And this gives downstream workers the right pattern to follow in order to optimize carcass yields. So it looks like we're getting more accuracy in butchering using artificial intelligence. Looks like we've got our first like from Sud Hakar. Thank you for joining us. Any of you that are coming in, we usually post and let us know where you're coming in from, and we usually like to announce that too to see what kind of reach these podcasts have. Now here's another interesting article, and this one is from the UK. The headline is, AI apocalypse could take away almost 8 million jobs in UK. And they say that women, younger workers, and lower paid are at most risk from artificial intelligence, according to IPPR think tank. These 8 million jobs, they're saying, is going to be part of a jobs apocalypse, according to a report warning that these groups will be affected. The worst case scenario, of course, is going to be 8 million. And they say that the tasks that are mostly affected are going to be routine cognitive tasks, including database management, scheduling, and stock taking, which was already at risk, they say, with potential to displace entry-level and part-time jobs in secretarial work, administration, and customer services. Then they talk about a second wave of AI adoption, which could impact non routine tasks involving the creation of databases, copywriting, and graphic design, which would affect increasingly higher earning jobs. We've already seen that in our company. We're generously investing in AI, applying it, and training our people on how to use it. And things like graphic design have basically gone away in our company because images like the one behind me are easily rendered within seconds using any of these image generating AI programs. Databases, assimilating databases, for example, at Gruber Motor Company, our service provider for Tesla vehicles, we are using AI for the technicians and the mechanics. And what we've been doing is training the large language model with repair procedures and all of our knowledge base history, symptom versus diagnosis versus a solution. And we found that to be highly successful. It reduces the amount of time required to repair certain types of problems, and found it to be quite useful. The techs use it continuously. In fact, that's one of the reasons that we have a certain bandwidth for that. Our subscription, I think, has limits, and occasionally we're hitting those limits now. All right, continuing here. Here's an article. Headline: After death, you are aware that you've died, say scientists. They talk about people who have had near-death experiences, talk about floating around the room, being aware of the medical team working on their body, or, of course, the white light that we often hear, the white light tunnel. The time of death, they say, is considered when a person has gone into cardiac arrest, which is the cessation of electrical impulse that drives the heartbeat. As a result, the heart locks up. This moment, when the heart stops, is considered the clearest indication that someone has died. But they say, what happens inside our mind during this process? Does death immediately overtake our subjective experience, or does it slowly creep in? Well, scientists are studying the near-death experience, the NDEs as the acronym goes, in an attempt to gain insights into how death overcomes the brain. What they found is remarkable. A surge of electricity enters the brain moments before brain death. One 2013 study, which examined electrical signals inside the heads of rats, found that the rodents entered a hyper-alert state just before death. So, some scientists are beginning to think now that NDEs, or near-death experiences, are caused by reduced blood flow, coupled with an abnormal electrical behavior inside the brain. So, this stereotypical tunnel now of white light might derive from a surge in neural activity. Dr. Sam Parnia, who is the Director of Critical Care and Resuscitation Research at NYU, he and his colleagues have investigated exactly how the brain dies. In previous work he's conducted with animal studies, looking at the moments before and after death, and he's also investigated near-death experiences. He says, many times, those who have had such experiences talk about floating around in the room and being aware of the medical team that is working on their body. They'll describe watching doctors and nurses working, and they'll describe having awareness of full conversations, of visual things that were going on that would otherwise not be known to them. You know, their senses are shut down basically on the operating room table, and their line of sight is certainly not broad. So being aware of these external things clearly indicates that a new level of perception and awareness is taking place. He also says that the medical staff confirms this. So the question becomes, how could those who were technically dead be cognizant of what's happening around them? Even after our breathing and heartbeat stop, we're conscious for about 2 to 20 seconds, Dr. Parnia says. and that is how long the cerebral cortex is thought to last without oxygen. This is the thinking and decision-making part of the brain, and it is responsible for deciphering the information gathered from our senses. Now, according to Dr. Parnia, during this period, you lose all your brainstem reflexes, your gag reflex, your pupil reflex, all that is gone. Brain waves from the cerebral cortex soon become undetectable. Even so, it can take hours for our thinking organ to fully shut down. Then they talk about CPR. Usually, when the heart stops beating and someone performs CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, this will provide about 15% of the oxygen needed to perform normal brain functions. If you manage to restart the heart, which is what CPR attempts to do, you'll gradually start to get the brain functioning again. The longer you're doing CPR, those brain cell death pathways are still happening, and they're just happening at a slightly slower rate. Dr. Parnia's latest ongoing study looks at a large number of Europeans and Americans who have experienced cardiac arrest and survived. In the same way that a group of researchers might be studying the qualitative nature of the human experience of love, he said, we're trying to understand the exact features that people experience when they go through death, because we understand that this is going to reflect the universal experience we're all going to have when we die. So, one of the objectives is to observe how the brain acts and reacts during cardiac arrest and during the process of death, and during a revival, if that's successful. Exactly how much oxygen does it take to reboot the brain? How is the brain affected after revival? Learning where the lines are drawn might improve resuscitation techniques, which could save countless lives each year. All right, so there you have it. Highlander, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm trying to figure out, he says, how AI can help me launch my little T-shirt business. You guys have any ideas? How can Highlander launch his T-shirt business?
Social media.
Social media, good one. Okay.
Images on Instagram would be huge. Maybe having some people wear them around town and tag you, and they put them on their own personal social media, right, and then they tag Highlander inside it, or his business account. Yeah, that'd be good.
And by the way, Aaron is a social media expert. He's our guru. He's constantly working in social media, so there's a bit of advice for you, Highlander. R.C. Robinson's son just joined us. He said, full self-driving will save so many lives. What were you saying this morning, Jesse? What's the percentage of accidents caused by human drivers?
I don't remember the number. It's a lot, though.
It was like 88%, I think you said, close to 90%, which isn't a surprise. People are piloting cars these days.
My commute to and from work, there's always at least 2 to 3 red light runners. Yeah. And even last night, Sarah and I went out to dinner, and we stopped at the light at 75th in Deer Valley, and I told her, I said, watch, somebody will run a red light. Sure enough, boom, somebody ran a red light.
And that's the car that could have T-boned you if you had not paid attention. We've gotten to the point, my wife and I, where we don't immediately react when the light turns green. We're looking both ways before we do anything. And like you said, a percentage of the time, it's life-saving. Why do you think that is? Anybody have any ideas here?
I think it's just as the city, I feel like I see it more in Phoenix now because we had such a big boom in the early 2000s, and then we had a big boom in around 2008, and it seems like we're going through another big boom with some of the political things that's been going on for the last few years. And it just feels like that more people are in a hurry to catch that yellow turning into a red instead of, hey, let me just back off the gas pedal here. They just have to push it. I see a lot of left-hand turns too, where it's like, it's going yellow, so everybody's trying to go there. Then the arrow turns red, and there's 2 or 3 more cars that follow right after, even though it's red.
Right. Yep. And everybody's in a hurry these days. And after COVID, it looked like police presence had declined somewhat. So, there's that may be another cause. Here in Phoenix, by the way, we have a geriatric population that comes and floods our streets during winter. They come from the Four Seasons areas, and it's a predictable driving method. Those are not the people that are running red lights, though, I assure you. In fact, yesterday, there was a woman in front of me. We were supposed to take a left-hand turn, and you know how people just won't get out in the intersection so that 2 or 3 cars can go? She was sitting way back by the crosswalk without moving. The light goes yellow. What does she do? She sits there. That is the most frustrating thing, because now if you've got enough oncoming traffic, this could go on for 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah, it's not uncommon to sit at a red light, for 2 turns,
Right.
because somebody doesn't know to pull out in front or
or is afraid to go unless it's completely clear.
Yeah.
And doesn't realize that when the light begins to go red is when you go and take your turn. But anyway, we're getting off on traffic issues here. Highlander, Des says, go retro on the tees, like the old Crazy Shirt stores in the 70s and 80s. I think you've got something there, Des, because my 12-year-old granddaughter was over a week or so ago, and she needed a shirt. They were going back east, my wife and I, and they need an extra shirt. So my wife pulls out an old T-shirt of mine, and it was a retro T-shirt, something about oil on it, right? And my granddaughter fell in love with that. She says, "Oh, Opa, can I have that?" And you're right. I think retro is in, at least for that generation. Highlander, thank you for that information. That's very valuable. I appreciate it. Thomas says, Pete, will I be able to get an autograph of you in Flachau? Oh, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, by the way. It sounds like you're overseas in Europe. Yeah, we'll be mingling. My son and I will be there. My wife will be there too, actually. And I don't know when the speaking engagement is, but yeah, we'll be omnipresent during those 2 days. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, there's a Tesla takeover in Europe, the first one. They've done 3 in the United States, in California. This is a Tesla takeover. About 1,000 Tesla owners or Tesla cars are going to show up, so probably more owners or more people. And it'll be the first one in Europe. There are a number of European Tesla clubs that will be attending this. And I saw the list of countries. I mean, we're talking Scandinavia, Portugal, France, of course, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Eastern Europe. So it's going to be a fun event. They'll have a lot of speaking engagements. They will have festivities. There will be a light show. There's music, stuff for the kids, tobogganing, whatever else. And yeah, we will. It'll be fun. So plan on joining us. It's May 24th and 25th in Flachau, Austria, which is just outside Salzburg, by the way. It is a ski resort area nestled in the Alps, a beautiful part of a part of that world. So here's another headline. Actors Union contracts define voice performers exclusively as humans. If you remember, the SAG-AFTRA group went and they were striking months ago, the Hollywood writers. And so there were some provisions that came out of a successful agreement. And part of that is that producers will now have negotiation with the union if they want to use an AI-generated voice. And of course, that's coming along quickly. We've got 11 labs now. You train that large language model on your voice, and it will replicate even intonation without the stuttering, without the ahs and the ums and all that. And it's a good, clean representation of your voice. So, according to the new contract that was ratified by SAG-AFTRA, the producers now will have to negotiate with the union if they even want to use this. And then, of course, there's something else. SAG-AFTRA ratified the new contracts for voice actors this week, announcing Friday night that they include protections for voice actors over the use of AI. These contracts also dictate that the term voice actor only includes humans. So even though AI can certainly be a voice actor, only humans will get that label or that distinction, and that producers will be required to obtain legal consent from an actor prior to using their name as a prompt to create an AI-generated voice. So in other words, if you say, give me a story, a verbal story in the style of Robin Williams, they're going to have to get permission, which is going to be hard because I think he passed a few years ago. They say that if AI is used to alter a voice actor's performance into a foreign language and the performance is exhibited, the voice actor shall be eligible for all applicable residuals based on that exhibition. In other words, they want pay for AI using their voice in a different language. Producers are also required to notify the union and negotiate with them should they choose to use an AI-generated voice rather than a human voice actor in production. So we've got a lot of caveats and a lot of rules. And of course, rightfully so. Anybody that's in that business need to be greatly concerned because as AI continues to gain skills and capabilities, like Sora, for example, which can actually create a video from a prompt, the need for human actors is eventually going to dissipate and go away. What will be interesting is whether we will deify the AI versions of these actors. The movie stars that are, doing the replicas of the Westerns, for example, or action stars, are we going to, as humans, deify something that doesn't even exist? Most likely the answer is yes.
Well, there's been some actors that have passed away during filming, there's also been actors who have aged a little too quick before they could get like a sequel or a part 2 out.
Right.
One of the ones that kind of come to mind is Stranger Things. I mean, they still haven't ended the Stranger Things saga yet. And I mean, those kids are, they're starting to get into their mid-20s. I mean, they're going to have 401k plans with, grandchildren by the time they're done playing a high school role.
Sure.
So like something like this, technology could maybe age them down a little bit or keep them young again, but they can still act, at the same time. So, I mean, they did that with Paul Walker when he passed away. They had I think his brother step in, and then they kind of digitalized his face.
Oh, really?
In
Okay.
In one of the last Fast and Furious movies he was supposed to be in.
Mm-hmm. Did not know that. And then you have the family shows like the Waltons, for example, where you have a group of children that are different ages. As those age and become adults, that whole aura of what the theme of that show is dissipates because, you're expecting a certain look and feel. The Cowsills was another one. The Partridge Family. Am I dating myself by saying all this stuff? Probably, right?
Just a tad.
Just a tad, okay. And, Stranger Things was something that my 12-year-old granddaughter loves and watches. I'm unfamiliar with it, so yeah, you got me on that one.
Netflix, go home and watch it.
Right, okay. All right. So, yeah, the SAG-AFTRA. We did one of our podcasts with the AI was when Fran Drescher was up on stage talking to the group for some sort of a SAG-AFTRA award type show. She was very adamant that AI was a huge threat. And looking at the audience, usually at the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards, people are animated, they're happy, they're smiling. Once you got to the topic of AI, you could see the enthusiasm begin to dissipate and drain out of their faces because I think these people realize that they are going through an existential threat. And it's very real. It's coming quickly, faster than I think they thought it would. And it'll be interesting to see how all this evolves in the future and what these people are going to end up doing after they're no longer relevant or needed to do blockbuster movies. All right, got some more people chiming in here. Thomas says, $1 million question. When will full self-driving beta be available in Europe? I'll bet that same question is being entertained by a number of the EV manufacturers, and they're probably complaining about all the regulatory requirements, which are oftentimes different and more stringent in Europe, especially in Germany. So we'll have to see if those things get cleared and get resolved. But Europe needs it just as much as any place else on the planet. We were talking earlier that the number of accidents caused by humans will dissipate tremendously once we get AI driving these cars. And it may get to a point where zero accidents is possible, unless I suppose you have an equipment failure, like this boat now that went into the bridge in Maryland. That may have been a legitimate non-human error.
I mean, I think to think that you won't have any issues with full self-driving, I think would be pretty, I mean, kind of dumb. There's always going to be some type of issues that are going to come up with newer technology and technology like this. But I think what it does, it reduces a lot of human error, which human error is way more faulty than technology has been.
We're saying that humans are far more glitchy than machines.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, it'll affect industries, body shops, paint shops. There will be a reduction. Highlander, Muskegan, Michigan, June 15th and 16th. Plenty of barbecue. He's talking about an event that's taking place there. And lots of sun, good times, lots of great speakers. Sandy Munro's going to be there. He's confirmed. I will have my clan tent there as well. It's a Scottish event, apparently. And so mark your calendars. And that is in where, Highlander? Muskegan, Michigan. There we go. I missed that first part, even though I said it. Say hi to Sandy for me. I'll probably be I'll be back from Europe by then. I try to get him to come with me to Austria because he usually goes to these types of events, but I think he had a conflict or something. So here's another interesting article that we actually ran in one of the previous AI podcasts. They have robot janitors developed by Somatic. These bathroom bots are designed to automate janitorial tasks and aid alongside sanitation workers. And for those of you interested, there's a video. This particular article is from PC Mag, and it was posted to a playlist, Strictly Robots. But you can actually see these little non-humanoid looking robots. They kind of look like R2-D2. They go into the bathroom, little arms come out, they raise the lid, they wipe this down and clean that and sanitize this and then move on to the urinal and to the next stall, right? What I found interesting about this article was what the Somatic CEO, Michael Levy, states, that less frequent tasks like stocking consumables would still require input from local staff. So humans aren't being eliminated, they're just being downgraded to being stockroom people, while the robots do the actual cleaning. All right, Cinnamon chiming in, he says, no actors after one generation. That's a pretty accurate prediction, I believe, Cinnamon. Nobody will care about superstars. Good point. There will be AI-made superstars. The record industry is over. I was a drummer for 15 years for the American Musical Awards. It is all done in a computer now. And we have an AI program, actually, that we talked about in the last AI podcast that generates music. What was the name of that? Sona, I think, Jess?
I'm sorry, say it again. The what?
The AI music generator from prompts. Sona, S-O-N-A, I believe.
I think so. I forgot. I'll look it up right now.
I got him so excited about this one day. He went home and he spent most of the evening playing with it and came in the following day and said, look at the type of music this thing can make. We no longer have to buy music for our videos. We can actually have AI generate music that's never existed before.
Yeah, he showed us the next morning. It was creepy good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's first pass. It just got released, and we just saw those kinds of results. And it is all based on prompt. And you can do things like do it in the style of. At one point, I said, finish Schubert's Fifth Symphony. And I think it generated something that looked or that sounded plausible. What I was looking for was the distinction between instruments. You know, how clean was the sound? How believable was it? And it was indistinguishable from the real stuff. As soon as he gets the name of that, I will let you know what that is, and I would suggest playing with it. It's
No,
free.
I think you got it. Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
Sona, Sona. Okay. In the meantime, Easy EV's chiming in. He says, "I wonder how mimic comedians like Rich Little back in the day will negotiate these new use laws." Yeah, good point. And whether AI will be able to recreate the magic of people like George Carlin, for example. The comedians.
Suno is what it's called.
Suno?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look that up. That's definitely something that will become addicting, I think. And of course, it will also generate, playlists for you. R.C. Robinson-san says grain bots. Okay. Highlander, it's in Michigan. We're going for the Guinness World Record for a Tesla light show. There you go.
Going back to the actors thing about how it'll all be AI, actors that people will look up to and celebrities and stuff. I mean, do you think the celebrity status will just change to the creator of the AI product?
Well, there are a few reasons why people deify Hollywood legends or stars, right? Physical prowess, the sports stars, for example, Michael Jordan, that sort of a thing. They break records, and people begin to deify them. They want to be like them if they're into sports. Then you have the beauty angle. I mean, there's some gorgeous starlets out there that for a guy definitely makes us deify them. The opposite is true for the ladies. Handsome, actors like Rock Hudson, for example, had a legion of women captivated. The question is AI going to replicate that? And the simple answer is, of course.
Pete, for these rants, you got to face the camera.
All right. I was talking to Aaron here, social media guy. Sorry about that, folks. And of course, it's going to transcend into AI. You can tell AI, I want you to generate the most beautiful woman for me, and if it's using biofeedback, which is also coming, by the way, we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. Everybody's vision of beauty may differ a bit or a lot, but with AI, it's going to zero in on precisely the features that turn you on the most. And once we have that, then recreating, starlets would be a simple thing for AI to accomplish. Same being true with music. It would, with biofeedback, it's able to determine what most appeals to you through your physiological reaction to the sounds that it's generating. And it will quickly zero in on precisely what floats your boat. So looking forward to all of that, by the way. So it's no longer guesswork and trial and error and, buy the album and realize that all the other track. Oh, you don't buy albums anymore. That's right. Sorry. I'm dating myself again. Never mind. All right. Here's another one. Headline: Sam Altman hints at the future of AI and GPT-5, and big things are coming. This was in an interview with Lex Friedman. Lex is, by the way, an MIT artificial intelligence researcher and a prolific podcaster. So while Sam was on his podcast, they were talking about plans for GPT-4 and GPT-5, which is the next generation from OpenAI, and as well as his temporary ousting as CEO in the lawsuit with Elon. But we won't get into that in this conversation. With GPT-5, it is currently an unofficial name used to refer to it, but since it's still being developed, even Altman says that it is not conclusively the name that they will be using, and they don't at this point know what it will end up being named. He does, however, give somewhat cryptic quote about the nature of OpenAI's upcoming release. And he says, "What's the big one? Or what's the one big unlock? Is it bigger? Is it a bigger computer? Is it a new secret? Is it something else?" It's all of these things together. And later on, they complain about the fact that he tends to talk in riddles. And then he followed up by stating that he and his colleagues think that what OpenAI does really well is multiply 200 medium-sized things together into one giant thing. And he specifically confirms to Friedman that this applies especially on the technical side. When they talk about the leap from GPT-4 to 5, turns out Altman does say that he's excited to see the next GPT iteration be smarter. So there's one clue. Friedman then asks Sam to blink twice if we can expect GPT-5 this year, which Altman refuses to do. Instead, he explained that OpenAI will be releasing other important things first, specifically the new model, currently unnamed, that Altman spoke about so poetically, GPT-5. All right, so it looks like better things are coming than GPT-4. He did say that they were working on some pretty important things right now that is being kept tightly under wraps. And people would like to know, of course, how large the advancement in AI we're about to see is.
So, Pete,
Yeah.
can we just pause for a second and think about that? Like right now, as we're doing this podcast, we all think about how great GPT-4 is. We use it all the time. We use it for everything. It's become one of our primary tools, right?
Yep.
And before that was GPT-3. We were using that, 3.5. As we're doing this and reporting on this right now, they're there in the lab making something right now that's going to, like right now, there are engineers out there that are creating the future, and we're going to see it soon.
Yeah. And we were equally impressed with GPT 3.5, blown away. 4 came out, and one can only imagine how, what the later versions are going to be. It's an exciting time to be alive, is it not?
Just imagine this time next year, we'll be using GPT-5 or whatever they call it, and Sora.
Yes. Yeah, for our social media and probably for business-related activities.
We're going to look back and say, how do we ever live like that?
Yeah.
That's how I feel now about.
3.5?
That's how I feel right now about the internet. Like seriously, about the internet and cell phones. I remember what it was like to not have that stuff, but it's also at the same time, it's like I can't imagine living without the tech that we have today.
My God, we used to be impressed with pagers.
Well, we talked about that before. Yeah, we used to have people's phone numbers memorized.
Exactly. Yeah, there were certain skills that are beginning to go by the wayside because they're no longer needed with the augmentation that we have. And what will we do is the real question with all of this additional augmentation. Will we start losing skills? Will we dumb down? Will the movie Idiocracy become a prophetic movie rather than an entertainment movie? Yet to be determined. Stay tuned. So Lex does say, I think Altman does have some awareness of people's anxieties about the fact that we're very much in an era of widespread AI revolution. And he does at least recognize that society needs time to adapt and process the introduction of technological force like AI. So having said that, is it possible that they're holding back?
They are, for sure.
For sure. Okay. What do you think?
Oh, definitely.
Holding back. All right.
Sora, I mean, we've already seen what Sora can do. They could have a beta version out to us right now. I think they're overcorrecting in the fact that they have a bunch of lawsuits and they don't want to just unleash it on the world and have all this crazy copyright stuff hit them again.
Yeah. Good point. And it goes further in the article, talking about Sam Altman again. He seems like he's aware on some level of the potential that AI and the very concept of artificial intelligence, general intelligence, will probably overhaul almost every aspect of our lives and the world. And it sounds like they're cooking up something very special for us in the future.
So, Pete, the thing that people, again, don't understand about this, I think, is the power of this. This is crazy to hear that we have a bunch of companies, Google, OpenAI, all these companies, their stated mission and purpose is to create artificial general intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's like saying, I have this privately owned company and my mission is to create a super nuke.
Okay.
They're doing a technology that's going to fundamentally change the entirety of human society.
And you just have to wonder what's running through their minds, and are they really holding back? And if so, who's guiding that, if anything? Is it the government? Are they involved? Here we go with the conspiracy theories. I mean, you can go down that rabbit hole for sure. But, you know, that is a legitimate concern, because the ability for humankind to integrate change definitely has its limitations. And the penalty for not paying attention to that could be that we have a mental, breakdown. And you certainly don't want that. Where this planet is crazy enough at this point, it doesn't need to get any crazier. Highlander says, it's all about vibration and frequency. You sound like Nicola Tesla. I say this as a submarine sonar technician. Yes. And I think it was Nicola Tesla that postulated at one point that it's all about vibration and frequency, and that you can actually take solid objects and turn them into something like dust at the right frequency. All right. Here's another article. AI is coming to your Google search results, even if you don't opt in. So apparently Google is testing a search generative experience with users who have not opted into it as a way to get additional feedback to see how the general public responds to it. Yeah, throw us to the wolves and then see what our reaction is. Good. The next time you search for something on Google, you might get a few responses that were generated by AI, whether you like it or not, they say. They've been offering generative AI responses for a while now. However, they only appeared for people who opted into Google's Search Generative Experience, SGE, with the Search Labs platform. Now it's instead offering those responses on a subset of queries, representing a small percentage of the search traffic that comes through the platform in the United States. So if your search happens to be in that select minority, the AI-generated response will appear in a green box above the traditional search results, labeled with Generative AI is Experimental note. So if you're seeing that, you're one of the few that's been selected as a guinea pig for this new capability. According to Search Engine Land, Google is currently showing the results in situations where it thinks generative AI can be helpful to the response. Specifically, situations where someone has asked a complex question or where it might be useful for them to get a variety of responses. So the company is testing this feature with users who have not opted in, but as a way to get additional feedback and how the general public will respond to this feature. All right. Another headline. Researchers gave AI an inner monologue, and it massively improved its performance. This is the part I loved. Scientists trained an AI system to think before speaking with a technique called Quiet Star. The inner monologue improved common sense reasoning and doubled math performance. Now, there's something for humans as well. You know, thinking before speaking is definitely a benefit because it makes you a bit more coherent, probably a lot more coherent. Giving artificial intelligence systems an inner monologue makes them considerably better at reasoning, this new research shows. So this method trains AI systems to think before they respond to prompts. Just as many people consider what we should say next before we speak. This is different from the way scientists have trained mainstay AI chatbots like ChatGPT, which don't think about what they're going to write or anticipate different possibilities for the next steps in a conversation. So this new capability is dubbed Quiet Star. The new method instructs an AI system to generate many inner rationales in parallel before responding to a conversational prompt. When the AI answers prompts, it generates a mixture of these predictions with and without rationale, printing the best answer, which can be verified by a human participant depending on the nature of the question. And finally, it learns by discarding rationales that prove incorrect. So it's teaching itself, training itself. In effect, the training method gives AI agents the capacity to anticipate future conversations and learn from ongoing ones. All right, then they've got a number of examples here. It gets pretty technical, but that's definitely worked for humans, has it not? Think before you speak. It's an old idiom. Highlander, wait a minute. On AI Day, you normally have one video, social media person, and you have two today. Well, actually, I think Aaron's been joining us for the, it was Sundays that you didn't come in. Okay.
Yeah. I started coming here when you guys did the Wednesday show. Yeah.
Now, Tony Brown says AI is currently reaching an IQ of 150. Correct. You know, I don't know that. Have they been giving AI IQ tests to AI?
Yeah, I was just searching a little bit about it. The Claude is getting about a 120 IQ. Just so that people are aware, average is between 85 and 115, with 98% of humans score below 130, and where AI is hitting 120 regularly.
Okay. So AI is not quite as intelligent as humans yet.
No, it's more intelligent.
You said 130 for humans?
So almost every human is less than 130, but the average is only 185 or 85 to 115.
Oh, okay.
So it's about 5 points above the average, the high end of average for humans.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to continue to report on that. We're not aware, at least in the short research that Jesse did, of a 150 quotient, but
150 is just way beyond superhuman. That's like, yeah.
All right. Here's an interesting one. FDA, Food and Drug Administration, approves the first over-the-counter CGM. CGM is a continuous glucose monitor. Now, I did a bit of research here. Glucose, of course, having to do with an imbalance. If you have an imbalance, it creates a disease called diabetes. Well, diabetes is an increasing disease and at alarming rates in the United States. According to the CDC, a report in 2022, cases of diabetes have risen to an estimated 37.3 million in the United States alone. What's the population here? 230, 240, something like that, 250?
For the United States?
Yeah, so we're talking over 10%.
Like 340 million, I think.
340, okay. All right, so we're talking just slightly over 10% of the population has type 2 diabetes. Now, this patch that you can now get without a prescription, probably get it at the dollar store eventually. That'd be cool. The patch will alert you if your blood sugar is high, and if you don't need the doctor to see the doctor to buy it. The FDA approved this, and it is a wearable device that makes it easy for people to keep track of their blood sugar levels. There's a picture of this, Jess. If you go to over-the-counter CGM, this is a little patch that you can stick on the back of your arm, or I suppose other places. Now, what this does is it gives more individuals valuable information about their health, regardless of their access to a doctor or health insurance, and it's an important step forward in advancing health equity for U.S. patients.
335 million.
335? Okay, population of the United States. So with 35 million Americans, or 37.3 million Americans, we've got a high ratio there that are suffering from type 2 diabetes, which means that their bodies either don't produce enough of the hormone insulin or don't use it effectively. And this can lead to chronically high levels of glucose, a type of sugar in their blood. Now, some people with type 2 diabetes need regular injections of synthetic insulin, and the majority try to keep their glucose levels in check using other medications such as metformin, GLP-1 agonists, or by making, now this is the one that's most important to me, or by making smart diet and lifestyle choices. Diabetes is oftentimes preventable. It may be hereditary, but if you're predisposed, you can take a life path that may prevent you from having to do things like this. It says, however a person chooses to manage their diabetes, it's important to keep track of their blood sugar levels. And rather than relying on regular finger pricks, which can be inconvenient, painful, and a visit to the doctor, of course, and provide only a momentary snapshot, some choose to wear a continuous glucose monitor. Now, this CGM uses a painless sensor that sticks very slightly into your skin. That doesn't quite sound painless, does it? I mean, anything that breaches the dermal layer is definitely going to be felt. I remember going to the doctor as a kid. Oh, this will feel like a mosquito bite. Hell no, it hurt like hell, especially on your fingertips where you have all that sensory input, you know? Do you remember that?
I do, unfortunately, yeah.
So it slightly pricks the skin, and it's held in place by a patch. The sensor now regularly measures your glucose levels, and you can get an alert via an app when they're high, or even have the CGM trigger an insulin pump. You know, some unfortunate people have to have augmentations on their body somewhere that triggers an insulin dosage through a pump mechanism that's buried underneath the skin. These CGMs apparently last for weeks, provide continuous view of your blood sugar throughout the day, so you can see in real time how diet is affecting your glucose levels. Now, that's the most important part. For me, I taught stress management at the community college level in the 80s, last century, that is. And we use biofeedback devices, biofeedback galvanic skin resistance monitors, to train people that the fight-flight response is something that you're generating in your head through either sensory inputs. A saber-toothed tiger charging you is a legitimate reason for you to go into fight-flight. But remembering the night before something that happened in the past, or anxiety, fear in the future, is not a legitimate fight-flight response trigger. And we taught them to distinguish between those by using these galvanic skin resistance monitors. This little device is something similar to that. You can begin to see, while you're eating that Dunkin' Donuts French cruller and drinking that sweetened coffee, what's happening to your body. And maybe, just maybe, you'll put it down and, stop the process, which is definitely going to make you healthier. All right, so they say they approved the first CGM, the Food and Drug Administration, in 2017. Others have come on the market since then, but they all required prescription. This changed March 5th, this month, when the FDA announced it was approving Stelo, S-T-E-L-O, a over-the-counter CGM developed by medtech company called Dexcom. So there you have it. Another version of AI getting involved in healthcare. And, you can probably have this feed your cell phone and give you alerts, give you the exact, readings and all of that. Okay, got a few things here. Tony Brown. Oh, no, we've already done that. Yep. All right. Here's a professor, dean at the College of Education in Sacramento, California. His name is Alexander Sidorkin. And I like this article, and I called it A Voice of Reason. The topic here is, my use of AI is none of your business. What he's talking about here is, should individuals be compelled to disclose their use of AI in creative and professional content creation? While the concept of AI disclosure may seem reasonable in academic settings, this is where you go to learn skills and get grades and then get a degree. Its application in the business world, he says, is not only unnecessary, but also an encroachment upon intellectual property rights and a manifestation of societal prejudice. Well, he got my interest here because this is the new brewing thing now. In fact, just the other day, Jesse pointed out, hey, look, Google now has a window here, and it is asking whether you've used AI with this particular input. So It's concerning that several respected organizations, such as publishers, news media outlets, and even the National Science Foundation, have succumbed to the misguided notion of AI use and disclosure. But he says what's even more troubling is that these entities have failed to articulate their intended use of this information. It is irresponsible, in his opinion, and unethical to demand disclosure without a clear plan for utilization of data. In other words, how are they using it? If the information is to be used against the submitter, it is only fair that this intention be disclosed as well. All right, so he says the requirement to disclose AI usage in business applications, such as publishable copy, grant proposals, reports, works of fiction, is an unwarranted intrusion. If the final product is of high caliber and does not violate any intellectual property rights, which means that it was created, the means by which it was created should be immaterial and confidential. Insisting on disclosure of tools and methods employed in the creative process is tantamount to a breach of the individual's intellectual property. And he gives an example here, an analogy. Just as a painter is not obliged to reveal the brand of brushes or the paints that they use, content creation should not be strong-armed into divulging their AI usage. Now, we have people in the audience oftentimes, or people in the industry that we're aware of, that are publishing, that are writing books, that are creating content, videos. And the majority of them these days are heavily availing themselves of the type of tools like GPT-4. He also says, moreover, the perceived need for AI disclosure is rooted in a pervasive societal bias that portrays AI as a menace to human creativity and intelligence. This notion, he says, is not only misguided, but also fails to recognize at present and in the future AI alone is incapable of producing truly valuable content without human input and ingenuity. Well, I differ with him there. We were just talking about the IQ levels and how they're climbing with AI compared to humans. So it's entirely possible that AI will begin to create things that are way beyond our capabilities, both in the art realm, the publishing realm, music, any of these endeavors. He goes on and he says, from a pragmatic standpoint, the ways in which AI can be integrated into the content creation process are legion. Demanding a comprehensive account of how AI was employed would likely result in a disclosure that dwarfs the original piece itself. So the insistence on AI disclosure in business applications he feels is misguided. It's an invasive demand that erodes intellectual property rights, perpetuates baseless prejudices against AI, and as long as the product is of high quality and does not infringe upon others' work, the use of AI should be regarded as valid as any other tool at the creator's disposal. Of course, we have one other element that plays into this, which is the group that is claiming that AI trained itself on a variety of bits of information, and it could be infringing just simply regurgitating any of that. So anyway, that was an interesting viewpoint, I thought. Jesse, you have any viewpoints on that, or did you want to pass on that this time?
Viewpoints on what? On
well, actually,
on
yeah,
AI?
before the session, yeah, we went on the on that
on
whole,
AI use?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you had some opinions before the show, and we had a spirited debate, but we can save that till next time, I guess.
Okay.
All right. So here's another interesting one. Do you remember that there was a period of time when pictures and later on videos were admissible in court as evidence? Well, here's an interesting article, The End of Photography and the End of Video as Evidence of Anything. Story here goes like this. 23 years ago, Stuart Brand and Jay Kinney and I this particular author wrote a cover story for the July 1985 issue of Whole Earth magazine called "The End of Photography as Evidence of Anything." We noticed that high-end graphic computers were able to alter photos in such a way that they could convey any fantasy. Now remember, 1985 was before the age of PCs. It was mainframes. I'm very familiar with that because I used to repair them in the 70s and the 80s. So they were large computers. But even back then, they could do things like retouch pictures. It was very expensive, they said. You paid a trained operator to do the retouching. So most of the fancy photo altering was done quietly for fashion or magazine covers. I used to have a friend that was a photographer. She used to point out regularly in the magazines how the models' faces were perfect. Not a blemish in sight, not a mole in sight. She says that was all airbrush. That was all altered. Even the eyes. She showed me how in the eyes you could see the lighting systems because of the reflections. And of course, the perfection in the whites of the eyes. Now, they say, this particular article, no one was admitting to it back then or talking about it. The alterations were usually stealth jobs and therefore news to most people, like me. Generally, I thought these models were perfect, right? Generally, photo alteration of this realistic type was so expensive, it was a big deal, and it required a special, dedicated mainframe computer. So their thesis back then was that with PCs coming online, you could remake photographs so realistically that it would not serve as evidence of reality. And of course, they felt back then even that at some point in time, PCs would be ubiquitous. Photoshop at that point was still a long ways away. So the point here being is that in this day and age, I don't believe anyone will ever begin to trust a photograph or even a video anymore because of all of the manipulation that can be done, or the AI versions that are able to generate full videos, not only images, but full videos like Sora. So that private detective that people used to hire to find their cheating spouse is probably out of work at this point in time, I would postulate.
I mean, if somebody gets caught on camera committing a crime, I think it would be pretty easy to figure out that it wasn't AI that did it versus somebody who's got a camera holding up trying to, capture something on, on video, right?
Well, I think AI would be able to replicate. What do you think, Jesse? Are we still able to trust photographs?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay.
Like using the ship that crashed into the Baltimore Bridge the other day. I mean, there was a security camera. I believe, I can't remember what the camera it was exactly, but it was pointing towards the bridge, and you can actually see, the ship come over, go right at the pillar, and then impact, and then you saw a couple seconds later the bridge collapse. That's a security camera that should be on a secure line. You would think that AI wouldn't have anything to do with that because all it's doing is just capturing what's going on in front of the camera versus me, hey, I see somebody breaking into my car and I have my phone up. Am I using AI to alter that video at that time or after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
So I would think, some video would still be okay to
would
use
still be relevant. Be relevant and be accurate. Yeah. Well, time will tell. I don't have a strong opinion on it. I think that the nature of reality is going to tweak so much in the future. It's going to be very difficult to distinguish what we are currently comfortable with defining as reality. Highlander says, please feel free to delete this media team. The U.S. government pays poor people to poison themselves with soda pop. Okay. He also says community college technical schools are the only way to go, in my opinion. And then also, other than the military, as far as education goes, top notch. All right.
I thought there was warning labels on soda pop. like with cigarettes and stuff. I thought there was a warning label saying that consuming too much sugar could lead to diabetes and tooth decay. And
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that. Any of you want to chime in? Yeah, are there warning labels now on soda cans? So here's another interesting article. In a first, scientists use AI to create brand new enzymes. Well, they say this breakthrough means that custom enzymes for almost any chemical reaction could, in principle, be designed. Living organisms are remarkable chemists, they say. And this is from a professor, David Baker, biochemistry at UW. Rather than relying on toxic compounds or extreme heat, they use gentle enzymes to break down or build up whatever they need. If we could create new enzymes that would put renewable chemicals and biofuels within reach, that would be great. There has been a recent glut of headlines about AI-powered creations, especially text generators like ChatGPT-4, image generators, and of course, DALL-E. But similar AI has also found a place in discovering new drugs, proteins, and antibodies. A Boston-based startup has created an AI model that utilizes the same technique that DALL-E uses to create images to design brand new artificial proteins. And by feeding the language of biology to a chat GPT-like AI, California biotech Profluent has created new proteins capable of killing bacteria. We were all wondering how long it would take for AI to infiltrate healthcare. And it looks like this is one of the examples. High-powered AI, they say, is a key component of protein designs because they are wildly complex molecules, honed by eons of evolution. The number of possible intricate and important structures that can make all the difference to what a protein does is difficult to comprehend. All right, so we'll report more as we get any medical breakthroughs. Guys, we've got more to go here, but we've run over an hour. Do you want to continue or should we wrap?
I should wrap.
Okay. One final thing I want to leave you with, and the city of San Jose, California has initiated a controversial project leveraging AI to detect homeless encampments within its limits. This sounds like government grant money to me. This sounds like pork. Yesterday I was driving home, and freeway underpass I normally go under. Usually there's a couple, three homeless people. This time there was a convention there. It's growing. I don't know if it's going to take AI to detect homeless encampments. So the city of San Jose definitely has some funding available, and they're using that. And they're actually using municipal vehicles to gather data on tents and vehicles that may be serving as home for homeless people. All right. Now, of course, the concern here is it could inspire other cities to use tech in solving social problems, shaping AI and surveillance policies. And that's, of course, what everybody's afraid of. How much surveillance are we comfortable with? Those of you that read George Orwell's book, 1984, probably have some strong ideas about that. And we'll broach those in the next AI podcast. Appreciate you all joining us. We'll see you next week. I'm Pete Gruber.